Welcome to the fourth Anglotopia Podcast.
Yes, the fourth Anglotopia Podcast. We took a break from talking about our Anglotopia's Great Adventure to do a Christmas-themed episode, and now it's time to get back to the final leg of our trip that we took last September, and that's the Scotland part, and we're really excited about talking about Scotland.
Woohoo, Scotland!
Now, to give some background, we had never been to Scotland.
Show note here, we can't drink tea at the same time. We both have a lovely mug of tea, and we both took a sip at the same time. Sorry, I interrupted you. Okay, what were you going to say?
So, for those not watching the video, we have mugs of tea with us.
I just explained that.
It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we're flagging. I don't know where I was. So we'd never been to Scotland before. The furthest north that we had been together was the Midlands. The furthest north I had been was the Lake District. So Scotland was completely uncharted territory. There's lots of reasons why we haven't been to Scotland yet. Mostly just because it's up there and it's hard to get to.
And there's not a direct flight.
Yeah, there's not a direct flight from Chicago, although I think United now flies direct to Edinburgh.
That and the time of year where we're usually there is northern Scotland is not super accessible.
We travel a lot in the winter and the bumper months to avoid the tourist season, and those aren't the best times to go to Scotland because their weather is more like a U.S. Midwestern winter than anywhere else in Britain. So the weather's inclement. So a lot more reasons. We just haven't had a chance to go there. So in our 15 years of travel, we finally got to go to Scotland, and that's the thing I was looking forward to most on the trip, was going to Scotland for the first time. It's, we've grew up watching Braveheart and all the movies that take place in Scotland. Local Hero is one of my favorite movies, so it's just fine. It was nice to finally get a chance to go. So, do you have any thoughts about going to Scotland?
I have lots of thoughts about going to Scotland, but I think one of the things that, my initial impressions of Scotland was, it's going to sound really simple and, slightly daft, maybe even. I knew that Scotland had its own culture and that it's uniquely Scottish, but what surprised me, I guess caught me off guard, is how distinctly Scottish Scotland is. I felt like there was a clear distinction between England and Scotland, and I thought that was really cool. I felt in a lot of ways like we weren't just experiencing far, far, far northern England, but we were experiencing a whole nother culture that we've never really had the chance to dip our toes into. And I think that the Scottish people as a whole were just so warm and welcoming and just lovely people.
Yeah, to pick up on that, I would say that Scotland is, they won't like to hear this, but Scotland is, it's recognizably British, like the rest, because we've been to England and Wales, and there's lots of things that are the same, but there's also a lot of differences.
Yeah.
And so Scotland is it's Britain with a twist, and there's their own unique things up there, and my favorite thing is the unique accent. Like when we were at our restaurant the first night, and we were surrounded by these beautiful Scottish accents, people talking, and I'm like, this is great.
Well, and the accent changed the further north we went.
Yeah.
It got more distinct. I think one of the things that, I had expectations, but the beauty of the landscape in Scotland is like nowhere I've ever been. I've seen a lot of the continental U.S. by car, the western half of the country. I've been over the Rockies. I've actually been over the Appalachians. I've seen mountains. I've seen sea or ocean. I've seen it. And it's beautiful, but there is something so rustic and remote, and just the beauty is I'm not doing a good job because this is a podcast, but it really is undescribable. It is, I've never been anywhere as beautiful.
Yeah, I would say Scotland's wide open spaces are amazing. Like the rest of England, I love the English landscape and the way it's shaped and the way it looks and the way it feels. Scotland feels completely different, and England, while England is bigger than Scotland, England is very compact and it's very crowded. Scotland only has, I think it's like 5 or 6 million people, whereas England has like 45 million people. So there's a lot less people in Scotland. So as a consequence, there's wide open, empty landscapes and vistas with no people in them, with nothing in them. It's Britain at its wildest. And as we drove, and we'll get to this, but as we drove through the roads up through central Scotland, through the Cairngorm National Park and everything, it's like there's just nothing. And it's beautiful, and the only thing there is the road and occasionally somewhere to stop for a cup of tea.
Like, if you keep a bucket list, like, the Cairngorm National Park needs to be on it. I think it, like I said, decently well-traveled. I think by far that was one of the most beautiful places on the face of the planet I have ever been. And one of the things that I loved about driving through that part of the country is you'd come around bend and there'd be another vista. And then, oh wait, here's another one. And, oh my gosh, how did it get more beautiful than the last vista? I mean, it's a feast for the eyes.
Yeah, and it's funny, when we crossed the border and we stopped and did pictures at the border and everything.
Yeah, we were those people.
Well, we weren't the only people doing it, but yeah. It's funny, like on the Scottish side of the road, there's big saltires blowing in the wind and a big sign. And on the English side of the road, there's just a little cross the St. George flag and a little welcome to England sign. That was funny.
It is funny.
But as we drove, because we drove along the coast road to the border, and then
we drove along the East Coast Road.
The East Coast Road along the border, through the border, and then kind of drove through the Scottish lowlands and the Scottish borders, I think they're called. And I was surprised. They were beautiful, but I was like, it looks a lot like England. So
nice. We're going to get letters.
So it didn't really start looking like Scotland, and doing air quotes. It didn't really look like Scotland until we left Edinburgh and started driving through the Highlands and seeing Scottish landscapes. So why don't we start with Edinburgh?
Yeah.
We didn't spend long in Edinburgh, and that was a consequence of
our
schedule. The schedule we had.
Just too tight.
So the first caveat here is we need to go back to Edinburgh, because
we did it a disservice.
We didn't see much there simply because we didn't have time and we were exhausted. So,
and I think we had been on the road for a solid week by this point.
Right, and at the end of the day when we arrived at Edinburgh, we'd been on the road all day. So
yeah, we had done Eckergill, or no, we didn't. We had to pass it.
We had done. We had left York, done Durham.
Yeah.
We went to Alnwick.
Thank you.
And then after Alnwick, we were just like, it's like 3 o'clock. We're exhausted. So. And
we knew we were gonna. And when we came into Edinburgh, like we came in on a Saturday late afternoon, and the traffic was like, we're used to traffic, especially like London traffic. I will tell you, the traffic we sat in coming into central Edinburgh would give London traffic a run for its money.
So now let's talk about the hotel we booked. It's called, I'm gonna write this in the show notes. It's called the Wine Bar, and it was I found it on one of the hotel websites. And
we'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. It's a boutique hotel that has 4 rooms, and it's called the Wine Bar, and it's from the 1800s, but it's been recently renovated, and it's the
gorgeous.
Rooms are very modern, very nice, very all mod cons, as the British say.
Super posh.
And then downstairs there's a wine bar that has fancy wines and drinks and stuff.
This hotel was made for me, folks. I just want you
That's why we picked it, because she loves wine. So that's why we picked it. And we thought it was relatively centrally located, but it turns out it really wasn't. It was kind of on I wouldn't say the wrong side of Edinburgh, but it wasn't in central Edinburgh where we thought it was. And where it was, there was a ton of construction, and it was really hard to navigate the roads over there. And it took us forever to find somewhere to park.
Yeah, I think that's the only hotel that we stayed at that didn't have a dedicated car park.
Because it's a hotel with 4 rooms, they had nowhere to park.
Right, and so imagine you're like on the streets of central Edinburgh in this giant Land Rover that is extremely, it's not a vehicle that I was super comfortable like leaving out on the streets. And side note here, I'm not like saying anything bad about Edinburgh. Like, I wouldn't be happy parking that vehicle on any street. Like, that is a garage kept vehicle. Like,
yeah. And one thing we learned quickly about Edinburgh is none of the roads are flat. So, like,
yeah.
we had to park downhill several blocks away from the hotel, which was fun with our luggage.
Yeah, that was fun.
But once you checked in, the hotel was nice.
Gorgeous.
It wasn't that expensive, although I think it was the most expensive hotel we stayed at the entire trip.
Worth it.
I think it was like £185 for the night. And
worth it.
It was worth it, but with a caveat that don't expect breakfast, even though it's included in the rate.
Don't expect a traditional breakfast.
Yeah.
I had probably one of my most favorite breakfasts of the trip, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, we stayed at the wine bar.
We checked in. We
settled in.
We went downstairs, and then we had a drink before dinner.
We had a drink before dinner, and then thinking about what we wanted to do for dinner, and looking at Google Maps to see what was around us. We were tired, and there were a lot of restaurants around us, and there was a Nando's across the street.
Well, hold on. Can I back up real quick and talk about drinks?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, okay, so I like wine. I think that I know enough about wine to make an informed choice when choosing something. What I loved about the wine bar, and so even if you aren't going to stay in the hotel, you can go to the wine bar downstairs, which is great. So many wines by the glass that it intimidated me. So I asked the bartender / sommelier, this is what I like, this is what I normally drink, what would you recommend? And so just kind of put my trust in his hands, and he brought me a wine variety or wine grape that I've never had in my life, and I wish I would have wrote it down. It was an Italian white wine. I'm not a huge white wine drinker. I'm normally a red wine drinker, but it was so good. And the best part of the whole thing was we ordered just a really small like tray of olives and cheeses and stuff like that for nibbles before dinner. Well, because we were staying in the hotel and we had been staying in hotels for a week, like we'd get in to our whatever city we were going to be in, we'd do an early dinner, then business, but back up in the room or a meeting or that kind of thing, and then usually bath or by like 9:30 we'd be hungry again. So I asked the sommelier or the bartender, who I'm not quite sure what his title was, if he would mind taking our leftover, our leftovers that we hadn't ate and put them up in the room. And he did, and that was so cool. So each room comes with a mini fridge, and there's a little bottle of champagne in the mini fridge, which is totally complimentary and delicious. So we went out and did our thing, and then
we went to Nando's for dinner, and that was interesting because it was interesting people watching wise because we got
that was an experience.
It was a Saturday night out in Edinburgh, so the locals were out for their Saturday night, and the young kids were out, and there was a play theater next door where there was a show on.
Yeah.
And so people were out and about. It was interesting to get a bit of local color that way. And then after we had Nando's, we went to bed.
Yummy Nando's.
We went to bed. So the next day, we got up and did breakfast. Now, it was okay. Most hotels in Britain, when you have breakfast included in your room, you can get a full English or a variation of that. Okay? Because the wine house has 4 rooms, they offered basically, what would you call it, a cheese board, or it was like cheeses and sausages and
it was
baguettes.
It was like a very continental Europe kind of breakfast.
Yeah.
It was very European. It was so good.
I hated it. I starved until we could.
Yeah, there wasn't an egg to be had or toast. You couldn't get eggs and toast, but I was in heaven.
I was a bit disappointed with that, but you loved it. So.
And the coffee. Oh, the coffee was so good. Good Italian coffee, big hunk of cheese. Oh, I'm good.
So we wanted to explore Edinburgh in the morning, but looking at how far we had to go that day, we were like, there's not enough time.
No.
And we're like, we're not going to give it justice by just popping into one thing. So we decided to just drive around Edinburgh to get a kind of a feel for what's there and what it looks like and get our bearings, so that when we go back, kind of know where everything is. So our first stop for the day is we went to the
Britannia.
The Britannia, the HMY Britannia. For those unfamiliar with that, that was the Queen's private yacht, and it sailed all over the world on the royal tours back when they still used a boat. She considered it one of her favorite palaces or homes, and because on the yacht, like, they could really let their hair down and be themselves because they were away from the press and the public eye. If you've watched The Crown on Netflix, a lot of The Crown,
the beginning of it, right?
Yeah, in the 50s and the 60s era, takes place on the Britannia because they were on it a lot. So we really wanted to see that because it's considered one of the top tourist attractions in all of Great Britain. So we got in the car after we drove through Edinburgh. We got in the car and drove over to the dock area where the HMY is moored. And it's kind of moored next to a mall.
Yeah, like you have to walk through a shopping mall. It was like, are we in the right spot?
Yeah, so we parked and walked through the mall, which was convenient because if you needed to pick up something, there's the mall right there. And there's also plenty of places to eat if you didn't want to eat on the ship. There's
a Wagamama in there. I would just like to declare my love for Wagamama.
So we
bought our tickets,
and it wasn't that crowded.
No, it wasn't too bad.
And because we didn't have to wait to get on, and we were early because our strategies usually show up at these places as soon as they open.
Yeah, and I'm really glad we did, actually.
Yeah, because we show up when it opens and there's not a huge crowd. So.
Well, and so you go through like a little exhibit before you actually board the boat, which is docked. Like, it never leaves the dock, but which is great because it kind of explains like what it was and what it meant to the royal family and just a little bit of history. And so it's a great primer. Like, stop and take the time. It gives a timeline of the yacht. So stop and take the time to look through and do that part.
And then they let you on board, and you start at the top of the ship on the decks, and then there's a lot to see there.
It's a whole yacht.
I mean, it's a whole yacht, and like, when you think of a yacht, not like a small, not like the boat from Captain Ron. I mean, like, this boat is massive.
Well, it's a yacht that was literally owned by the Queen of England.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big ship. I don't have the stats on how big it is, but it's. I mean, there's more than half a dozen decks.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it was several hundred feet long. I mean, it's a big ship, so there's a lot to see. And you're basically taken on a tour through the royal family's history with the boat. It's decorated as it was when it was decommissioned.
Like, you literally walk where the Queen walked.
Yeah.
And all of the royal family, for that matter, that was on the boat at one point or another.
And it had started to get a little more crowded by this point, so, I mean, you kind of had to shuffle your way through.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that, you are on a yacht, and, like,
the space is limited.
It's not meant to, like, push 200 people through. It's meant for, like,
and there's a great cafe.
Yes.
On the ship. We had tea and cake.
Yes, because it was not quite lunchtime, but we were still, and you were starving from breakfast.
Yeah, I was starving from breakfast, so we had tea and cake. So that was nice. Cause
it was like,
say you had tea and cake on the Queen's boat.
Well, like, there were linen tablecloths, and it felt very posh, even though, like, it didn't have a super posh price tag.
Service was really good.
Yeah.
So we make the time to do tea, and
it's worth it just to take in the view.
Yeah,
I mean, because
where it's located, it's in the dock area of Edinburgh, so it's right on the sea, on the firth that goes out to the ocean, and you can see the big bridge, the Queen's Ferry Bridge, and the bridges, and the Firth of Forth Bridge. Like, you can see all that. It's cool. And so then you start at the top, and then you work your way down, and then if you suffer from claustrophobia or don't like confined spaces, that's when it gets uncomfortable, because the further down you go in the ship, the more cramped it gets, to the point where when you're down in the crew quarters, the poor crew, oh my god, it's like single file and you get trapped very easily.
Yeah,
I skipped the last deck because I couldn't handle it.
And we skipped the last 2 decks, actually. I mean, I don't know. There was just something, it was uncomfortable. So
yeah, there's a lot.
And Prince Albert's racing yacht is parked right outside, or I should say it's dry docked. And it's a sailing.
You mean Duke of Edinburgh's?
Thank you. I knew that was wrong when I said it. Yeah. Sorry, folks. His racing yacht is dry docked out there, and as a sailing enthusiast and a beginning sailor, I was all about it. But they had it cordoned off, you couldn't go up to it or really see it. And I was kind of craning to see it, not in a disrespectful manner or anything like that. And a member of staff was like, "Would you like to see it?" And they didn't know they didn't know that we were with Anglotopia or anything, or and they were so kind, and there was a very nice gentleman who asked to not be named, kind of removed the cordon and let me go take a look, and I kept a respectful distance and didn't touch anything. Snapped a quick photo of me standing in front of it. Gorgeous little racing boat. That would be I would love to take that out.
Yeah, so if you do one thing in Edinburgh, I would say do the Britannia.
We should kind of amend that, though. Well, if you do one thing outside of central Edinburgh,
because we haven't done Edinburgh.
Exactly.
We didn't have time, but definitely do the Britannia.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history there, and I believe the Queen cried when they took it away from her.
That's what
At
I
the
heard.
Decommissioning ceremony, she's crying. It's the only time she's ever been recorded crying in public.
I would have sobbed.
So,
I would have been a mess. A national disgrace right here.
It's a beautiful boat.
I would have, chained myself to the mast and been no.
So after that, we needed to drive north, because we
had a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, we needed to get to Inverness, and then, which is about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive from Edinburgh. So we
that's where we went through the national forest, right?
Yeah, that's where we went through you go through the edge of the Cairngorms National Park, and I recommend this map of Scotland from International Travel Maps, which we'll link in the show notes. It has all the roads and everything. You'll want to look this up on Google Maps. We were on the A9, which is the main spine road that runs from Edinburgh north through the Highlands to Inverness. And it's pretty much a straight shot. And it's one of the most beautiful drives I've ever done in my life. I mean, there's mountains and glens and peat bogs and rivers. And
it's going, John, eyes on the road, eyes on the road, eyes on the road.
Yeah, it's stunning. And I think we saw 3 distinct rainbows in a row throughout the day because it rained and the sun would come out and it rained again.
I'm completely convinced that Scotland is the home of rainbows. Sorry, Ireland.
Yeah, the rainbows were beautiful. And now, side note, the A9 has average speed cameras the entire length of the road. Okay? And for those who aren't familiar with average speed cameras, because they're a completely foreign concept here, an average speed camera, it checks your speed when you enter the zone, and it checks your speed when you leave the zone, so that if you went through it too fast, it would know, and then you would get a speeding ticket. So this stretch of 100 miles of road, though, the entire stretch has average speed cameras, and I heard after the fact it's for safety on that stretch of road because it's so beautiful and also so wild and remote that if they don't have the speed limit set like that, it's dangerous. So
I could see that.
It wasn't dangerous the day we were driving through there, but traffic just moves so slow through there. But again, it's the most beautiful landscape we've ever been in, so I guess it wasn't that bad, but it was still frustrating that you couldn't go any faster because nobody can speak because everybody's being clocked as they enter and exit, and it was slow going, but it was the slowest, most beautiful drive I've ever taken.
For sure.
So, what's he barking at? Sorry, our dog's barking at something in the yard.
Crazy puppy. I swear he makes an appearance at some point during the podcast, one way or another.
His hair's up. You see something.
Anyway, back to the point.
Back to the drive. So, we stopped about halfway through. I forget the name of the place, but it was like this little cafe literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, when he says the middle of nowhere, I mean, he means the middle of nowhere.
There were no
but
towns nearby.
Can I just say that's one of the things I love most about Great Britain is that you actually get a proper cafe for like tea and coffee, and people will sit and have a tea or a coffee, like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So, and then we moved on, and we didn't make any other stops that day, did we? No,
I mean, this was like, what, day 8 at this point, which, day 8 or day 9, like, we were just, like...
I feel like we did, though.
No, we didn't. We were so bone tired, and although that drive was only supposed to be a couple of hours, we knew that they were also British miles, so we did not, because we were going to stop at Loch Ness on the way. But by the time we got that far north...
we decided to do that the next day.
Right, we had to push it to the next day.
So, yeah, I forgot to mention, nerd alert here, we got to cross the new Queens Ferry Bridge, which was incredible. The bridge is stunning. It's 6 lanes, and it literally just opened this year. That was really cool. We got to see the famous Firth of Forth Iron Bridge. So, yeah, that was cool. So then we made it to Inverness. We did not stay in Inverness, actually, though. We crossed the bridge and stayed in North Keswick at the North Keswick Hotel, which has a view of Inverness. I would say this is the hotel we liked the least the entire trip.
I think that would be fair. Not a bad hotel.
I actually think it was more expensive than the one in Edinburgh.
It was, because we thought we had booked a sea view.
Yeah, and it only kind of had a sea view.
I think, like, out of a side back window, you could see the sea.
And by this far north, it was cold. And our room was freezing.
And it had, like, 2 beds in it, but not, it had a double and a twin.
Yeah, which is kind of weird.
But would be nice for, like, families, like, if you wanted to, like, if you were traveling with your kids or something, like... So, it was clean, which was, like, the most important thing. But it was very clean but basic.
Yeah, it was pretty basic, but I'm hesitant to say anything bad about it, because it was fine.
Yeah.
The pub was really nice. The food was really good in the pub.
Which is downstairs.
So that was good. And it was quiet.
Yes, it was quiet.
And the views
from the front
are amazing, because you see the bridge and the Firth and so yeah.
But I think that with the price tag and just
the price that we paid
it did not feel like the value for money was there.
Yeah, it was not good value.
Like if it would have been like considerably less, and it would have been like, hey babe, we're just staying here for one night.
They had
like
included dinner in the price.
Yeah, dinner but no drinks, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was 185 pounds. I was like, that was like the first time of the trip. I was like, really? Yeah. But that's really. I mean, that's on us for not researching more places to stay. It was mostly necessity, just finding a place in between Edinburgh and
Well, so. And okay, so not necessarily saying something bad, but breakfast that the next morning really left a lot to be desired. Like, my breakfast is fine. I ordered porridge, which is like oatmeal basically. And, like, Scottish oatmeal is supposed to be, like, world famous. And granted, yeah, probably not the place to order it. But, yeah, my breakfast was... Like, I was like you the day before. I was just, like, not about it. So that was a bummer. But the view, like, from the breakfast room, stunning. Like, I could have sat there and just drank a pot of tea.
So, after that... we could have driven straight through to John O'Groats, but then we would have had to come straight back to Inverness. So the plan was to drive to Akergill.
Well, wait,
Castle.
we went to Loch Ness.
I know I haven't.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm laying out the day.
Okay, sorry.
So we had to end the day at Akergill Castle, which is not far from John O'Groats. So there was a couple things we wanted to see in between. So we wanted to see Loch Ness, and then we wanted to go to what was the name of the castle? The name escapes me. It's owned by the Duke of Sutherland. It was probably my favorite thing we saw in Scotland.
I don't know. Like, you should Google it. Well, I can talk about Loch Ness while you're taking a look.
Loch Ness.
So Loch Ness is absolutely gorgeous. We did not see Nessie. She had not had her tea yet for the morning. We were there very early. Again, like with all of these things, go early. We went and saw another castle that was on the loch as well.
Yeah, we went to Urquhart Castle, which is the thing to see on Loch Ness because it gives you views of the entire loch.
But
we got there early, so there was nobody there.
It was very cold the morning we were there. Like, we're talking probably 40s. And neither of us had brought a coat. I had bought kind of like a cotton with cotton coat down in Cornwall that had like a wax covering, but so it was 40 degrees and it was a little slick and a little icy, and so that's not the time to go see Urquhart Castle unless you're properly attired, which we weren't. So we did a very, very brisk walk through going, this is beautiful, and I'm freezing.
So after Loch Ness, we didn't really stop anywhere else in Loch Ness because it was very clear that it was tourist traptopia.
Yeah.
There was ample Loch Ness, Nessie gift shops and visitor centers and experiences, and the tour buses had started to arrive and unload. We were just this is not us. So,
and no offense to anybody who that's really your thing. That's super cool, but it just was not our thing.
Yeah. So we went on for the day. So the Mystery Castle. It's Dunrobin Castle.
Oh, that's right.
And it was about an hour away from where we were, and it's I guess I would describe it as it looks like Hogwarts. Or rather, Hogwarts looks like Dunrobin Castle.
It looked like a quintessential fairy tale castle.
Yeah,
to me.
But the thing is, it's not a real castle.
Right.
Quote, castle. It's a stately home that was rebuilt in the Victorian era to look like a Scottish fairy tale castle. So
it's gorgeous.
But it was, I mean, we had to drive along the coast to get there, and we had to cross 3 beautiful bridges to get there. And it was just amazing, and it's perched on a cliff right above the sea, so when you're inside the castle you can see the sea, and when you're outside the castle in the gardens you can hear the sea, and it's very much I hate to use the word Downton Abbey-esque because we're probably going to use it again later, but it was very aristocratic and stately because it's still a privately owned stately home. It's still the seat of the Dukes of Sutherland. So but it's open to the public every day, and it's beautiful. I highly recommend visiting there. It's not a large stately home, so you can it's not taxing to walk around it. And then,
however, that being said, there are a lot of stairs. So
yes.
If you have mobility issues, unfortunately, this may not be the right site for you.
Yeah, you definitely won't be able to go down into the gardens. Well, there's a large ramp that you can take, but I don't know. There's still a lot of stairs going down into the garden, but
for sure in the house, though.
Highly recommend going down the stairs and into the garden because it's beautiful. I actually shot an Anglophile Zen video, which I will link to in the show notes, of the gardens because it was peaceful and beautiful, and the castle and perched above you. It was amazing. So
I had lunch in the caf while he did that because as beautiful as it was, and I would have loved to have seen it, I was cold. They have this massive fireplace going when you come in, with just a huge log fire. that was my jam. Like, I sat there and just kind of warmed up for the first time because our hotel in North Keswick was chilly. I mean, we weren't kidding. Like, we were cold for, like, I don't know, 18 hours. And that's our own fault because we just were not properly attired. So, yeah.
So highly recommend visiting Dunrobin Castle. If I would love to go there again. I mean,
I'd like to go in the summer, or at least when I'm a little better prepared.
A lot of these stately homes, like, you can visit them once and you've done it. You don't really need to go back. But I think this is one of the few where I'm like, I really want to go back there. I really liked it.
Yeah, I want to see the gardens.
Yeah, the gardens are incredible because you can walk down to the edge of the garden and there's the sea.
Oh, I have a love affair with the sea.
So after that, we drove up the coast road, which was, again, the A9 basically follows the coast all the way up until it turns into the A99 to go through Wick. And, like, when you look at it on the map, you're like, oh, it's just a straight line along the coast on the map. But, I mean, it's not a straight line.
No.
It's curvy.
Lots of hairpin turns. There's huge steep gradients. Like, there's actually places where trucks can roll off if their brakes give out. I mean, it's like driving through the mountains in Appalachia. It's beautiful. The views
of the endless North Sea.
Oh, I mean, my God. Like
when we did the drive again, coming back the next day, like, I just soaked it all in as much as I could. And hopefully in the next few weeks we'll make the driving video, piece together the driving video so you can actually see some of the driving we did along the coast. And it was just amazing. And
I found our future cottage.
Yeah, as you drive further north, I mean, it gets more rural. There's less people, less settlements, and
remote.
It's very remote. And you lay down, buddy. And there's a lot of abandoned crofts. Crofts are Scottish for small farms.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were cleared during the Highland clearances. So there's a lot of abandoned cottages where people left them because they weren't economically viable. And, you know, there's the people who make their lives up here are very hardy people. And, but as we were driving along the coast, we spotted an abandoned cottage that was perched right over the sea. And it had like a green carpet down to the cliff edge, and it was like the perfect size as a holiday bullpull.
Gonna be mine someday. I fully intend to buy it. I don't know how, but
yeah. So immediately we began to fantasize about our future Scottish holiday cottage on the coast because it's like the perfect place to just get away from it all.
Yeah, like sit in there, like have avocado, you deliver your groceries or something.
Have a roaring fire in the winter
and just kind of hold up in your little cottage.
Right, and read and just...
Gotta have good internet though.
Well, they have good internet up there, so...
Yep, see? Okay,
they have
done.
broadband, so we were good. Yeah, but it was just... I think... And actually, after we got home, I did some research. I found the name of the property that's abandoned, so one day we're going to find out who owns it, and this is... It's a fantasy, but I mean, one day
no, dude, this is reality. This is happening.
Well, it's more likely to happen than our dreams of a cottage in the Dorset countryside because property, we learned when we did property search later, property in this part of Scotland in Caithness is really cheap.
Shh! Don't tell everybody. Somebody's gonna buy my cottage.
I mean, you can find cottages for around 100,000 to 150,000 pounds, which is for Britain is very inexpensive. So we'll see. Maybe one day, you know.
It's happening, folks. This is happening.
Maybe in 20 years.
I mean, yeah, it's probably gonna take 20 years. After I've had a
best-selling book, or you've had a best-selling book.
Yeah.
So
I can park my sailboat out front. I love this idea. Folks.
So our final stop for the day was Akergill Castle. And on the way...
It's a real castle, folks. A real castle.
Yes. But on the way, we stopped in Wick.
Well, we stopped for a quick shop.
Yeah, I needed another micro SD card for the camera. And there was an Argos. And you may have read about my love for Argos on Anglotopia, but like Argos is the most amazing place. Like you go in, and for Americans, do you remember service merchandise? Well, in Britain, it lives on as a place called Argos.
Oh my gosh, folks, you better send help. He's starting to talk about Argos. Here we go.
And you go into Argos, and there's like consoles with a gigantic 2,000-page catalog, and they've upgraded the computers. And there's a computer, and you type in what you're looking for, you order it, and then it comes out on a conveyor belt, and like it's amazing. I used it when I was in the Lake District. I got a suitcase, and I needed a flash card. So
you bought a chair too, didn't you?
Yeah, I bought when I was at I was in Oxford.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, I needed a chair for a outdoor concert I was going to, so I went and bought a 7-pound chair from Argos. It was great. I love Argos. If you're looking for something that you can't find a store nearby, if you can find an Argos, you'll find it.
Check the high street first, folks. Independent business.
Well,
just
there will
saying.
be an Argos on the high street too.
You know what I mean.
So yeah, I love Argos. So that was in Wick. And then after that,
sorry about that,
we went to Akergo Castle, which, as she said, was a castle. It was
like
a
real castle,
real medieval castle turned into a stately home / hotel, and
super posh.
This was the coolest place we've ever stayed ever. I mean, it's like every room is different. It's a tower perched right on the sea that's got higgledy-piggledy rooms, and it's topsy-turvy, and we had to climb a spiral staircase and hold on to the rope to
like a legit up a turret, and I will say, great going up when you check in. Like they'll bring your bags up for you, fine. After a boozy dinner, wearing a set of heels, not so great. More of an adventure. But
yeah, it was an amazing place, and after there's a restaurant on site, and it's in the Great Hall of the stately home, and it's like
which is still decorated as the Great Hall probably always has been.
And I don't know if it has Michelin stars. I doubt it does, but
sorry, puppy just knocked the camera.
But still can see us.
Yeah.
So lay down, okay, buddy. This is Winston, by the way. He's our young puppy who doesn't know when we're recording a podcast.
Yes.
You remember the pictures of him when he was this big. Well, now he's this big.
Yes.
So,
and
I love Winston. She does not.
He's still a handful.
So, but I would say it's a fancy restaurant. It has a set menu, and you have to and then it's a dinner service where everything's served properly, and it was
gorgeous.
One of the most posh meals we had the entire trip.
It was the most posh meal we had the entire trip.
I think it's probably the most posh we've ever had.
Yeah. But when we checked in too, they give you a really brief tour, and they're like, drinks are at this time before dinner. So it felt like we were in Downton Abbey, dress and then go down for drinks. But drinks weren't a social thing either, which was actually kind of cool. So just kind of a weird thing that happened, and something that I noticed throughout the trip. So we ran into some fellow Americans as we came down for drinks that evening, and it's a posh hotel, but it still feels very much like a home. And so we walked into the sitting room to have drinks. And again, it wasn't a super social thing. We could sit by ourselves. Anyway, the other Americans in the room felt the need to pick up everything and examine everything and touch everything, and it just it really bothered me. Don't touch, it doesn't belong to you.
So yeah, but it was the cool thing about this is it's a stately home, and you get to act like you live there. You get access to all the sitting rooms and reception rooms, and you can wander around and look around and poke your head around. And
not in other people's rooms or anything like that.
In the public areas, and you can basically explore the stately home, and it was just so cool. And you got beautiful views of the sea. So then we had dinner in the restaurant, and it was fantastic.
We sat in an ingle nook, a stone ingle nook. It was so beautiful, and they lit candles, and that was just regular dinner service, but for us, it was super romantic, and just And really cool thing happened. We were sitting and having drinks, and like a party had come in from hunting, and somebody got a stag, and like they had come in and they had told the staff, oh, like, we got a stag, and I'm like, not saying like I'm pro hunting or anything like that, but like it was like a big deal. So it felt like you were almost part of a country house party. Like it felt like something out of Downton Abbey.
Yeah, there's that phrase again. Sorry.
Yeah.
So our room was lovely. It was the former lady of the house's room.
Yes.
We love the wallpaper. We took a picture of the wallpaper because
it's like whimsical and beautiful. I guess she really loved bugs.
We didn't have a sea view, which was unfortunate.
Oh,
and they really tried to give us a sea view, but they were fully booked. But we still had great views from the third story of the tower. I mean, it was great.
Yeah. And I liked that the bathroom was a little shabby. Like it looks like maybe like 1930s shower tiles in there.
There was no bath, which sucked.
Yeah, that was kind of a.
I really wanted a bath.
Yeah, really wanted a bathtub, but there was something really kind of neat about it, and just like you said, like higgledy-piggledy, and kind of changing gears. But dinner that night was like by far favorite dinner experience of the whole trip. It was a set menu. A lot of game and fowl and fish and like not normally stuff that we would eat. So we both kind of pushed outside of our comfort zones and had the set menu, and it was absolutely delicious. Like they had pigeon. It sounds delicious. Yeah. It was delicious.
So the next day breakfast was great. There's a pub on site too, but it's only open on certain days of the week, which wasn't open when we were there. And then there's also self-catering units there.
Right.
So if you don't want to stay in the castle, you can stay in the self-catering. And
yeah, breakfast was like...
Breakfast was great.
Yeah, made to order kind of thing.
It's not in the castle. It's in a separate building.
It's in the pub you mentioned.
I should note for AV geeks that this place is very popular.
Yes.
With people with the general aviation pilots who fly transatlantically, because it's one of the first airports on mainland Britain after you leave Iceland. So like it's a huge stopover point for a lot of those pilots. There was actually people there who were getting ready to leave to fly.
They were like getting their flight path by whatever body does that.
Yeah, they were getting ready to fly across the Atlantic. I was like, that's so cool. So the Wick Airport's very popular for that. So then after that, this was the day we drive to John O'Groats. And
the Queen Mun, though.
That was after.
Oh,
we did that
okay.
after.
Sorry, I've done it again. I apologize.
So we wanted to... So the whole point was to get to John O'Groats.
Yes.
And so we departed the hotel and drove there and got there in 15 minutes. So
yeah, it's super close.
Yeah, it's very close. And yeah, so we did the touristy thing, took a picture at the sign, and I'm hitting the table and it's driving Jackie crazy.
I know, I apologize. That noise is John beating his fists on the table, and it makes me nuts when I edit.
So, yeah, we did John O'Groats, and Land's End at the beginning was a tourist trap. John O'Groats was still kind of a tourist trap.
But there weren't, like, attractions.
But, yeah, there weren't, like, attractions, and there were gift shops, and there was a Starbucks.
What were we looking for? Oh, I think I wanted, like, a Land's End to John O'Groats t-shirt.
Yeah, and there wasn't. We couldn't find one. That was nice enough to buy.
Well, like, we went to just about, like,
I think we... shops there.
Yeah,
none of them had a decent t-shirt.
I was like, how is this not a thing?
Right? I was like, we should make our own. And so we did the sign.
Like something like, I survived the drive from John O'Groats to Land's End.
And we saw other people. We got there like right after it opened, and there was nobody there.
It was great.
But people were arriving, and they had bottles of champagne with them. We're like, why didn't we think of that? And we went into the cafe to go buy a bottle of champagne. And he's like, well, our license only allows us to sell liquor after a certain time.
After 11 a.m.
After 11 a.m. It was 10 a.m. So we're like,
I totally felt like a lush. I'm like, here, I'll take this bottle of champagne. And he was just like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't sell that to you. It's too early. I'm like, very embarrassed, like, I guess I'll go put that back. Oops.
Yeah, so,
it was fun, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Instead, We did the very British thing, and we had a cup of tea.
And we talked on camera. It's in our vlog. You can see it.
Yeah.
So then that was the end of the lands in the John O'Groats Drive. But we weren't done yet.
No, a long way to go before we got home.
Yeah, so... Because it's in the middle of nowhere. And it was cold.
Very cold.
I did not have a coat. I think I was actually wearing this.
You were in your Anglotopia hoodie.
I was.
Yeah.
So while we were up there, we wanted to make sure we saw, which is basically the only tourist attraction up there, the Castle of May. For those unfamiliar with the Castle of May, it was the home of the late Queen Mother. It was her beloved Scottish bolt hole. And after she died, it was turned over to her trust, and it's run as a tourist attraction. And so we decided to visit that. It was lovely.
I have some feelings.
It was raining, and they wouldn't let her stand inside. But once we got inside, we understood why.
Okay, it wasn't raining. It was sleeting. I didn't have a coat on, which, again, I take full responsibility for not having a coat. But, yeah, I knocked on the door politely and asked if I could just stand just inside the vestibule, and the gentleman was very curt and said no, and basically shut the door in my face while I stood there in the sleet like a, poor soggy puppy or something. I was not pleased.
We were not amused. So,
although I guess it's my own fault, right, for showing up to the Queen Mom's house looking like, makeup running down my face.
So,
it's just horrible.
So I'll write more about the Castle of May later on, but the Castle of May is not a stately home.
No.
It's a very small, intimate home, and it really gives you an insight into the kind of person the Queen Mother was, because it was her private space. As a consequence, we were not allowed to take pictures inside, which I hate that, but I understand. And you can only go through on a guided tour. But our tour guide was fantastic.
You could tell it was her passion.
Yeah, she was great. She had lots of anecdotes. We got to see the whole place, and then afterwards we had tea, and then we also had lunch, and were introduced to the most wonderful lunch that we'd never had before in all our travels, which was...
He used the word "we" a lot. I should say "you."
A ham and cheese toasty. It was really good.
That's for American audiences, that's a grilled cheese, like, on steroids.
With a piece of meat and more cheese and...
Piece of ham.
It's basically like a croque monsieur in France.
Yeah.
It was really good. And now we
bought
the things to make them at home. So,
yeah.
We did the Castle of May. After that, that was it. I mean, we had to get back to...
we had a meeting with a colleague in Inverness.
Yeah, we had to get back to Inverness.
To return our beloved Landy.
Yes, so we had to return the rental car in Inverness. So this was like itinerary foo. We had to do a bunch of things because we needed to get rid of the rental car, but we also had to catch a train that night, but also meet somebody for dinner. And so we were taking the Caledonian sleeper, which is the overnight train from Inverness to London. It also goes from Edinburgh and I think Glasgow and Fort William, but don't quote me on that. And it's something we've always wanted to do because we don't really have sleeper trains here. I mean,
like you'll go on like a big trip to do it here, but it's not like it's not city to city usually.
But before that we had to return a rental car at the airport at Inverness, which is not in central Inverness. So I dropped Jackie at the train station, and she met up with the person we were supposed to be meeting.
I did, because you got delayed.
Yeah,
so
we were running late. So I drove the car back to Inverness Airport and had a hell of a time finding where to return it. Like, airports clearly delineate where you're supposed to take your rental car.
And we had like bag apocalypse too, as John. Yeah, so like the plan was, I was like, John, drop me at the train station. You go take the car. I'll check the bags in the temporary locker so we can go have our business meeting, and then we'll just come back and get on the train. Literally, as like John pulls up in the car park, which we weren't supposed to like really park, but like we were unloading like 11 days worth of luggage, which was still only 2 carry-ons, but 2 carry-ons and a duffel bag at this point.
The duffel bag broke.
Literally, the duffel bag split in half.
Yeah.
Like, basically, like, knickers are, like, sitting in the parking lot. And I'm like, Jeff just looked at me with, like, this look of panic, because here we have a meeting. We still have the car. Now we've got knickers all over the parking lot. And I'm like, dude, just go. I've got this. So, luckily, there was a sporting goods hiking store, like, literally around the corner. Like, I managed to check our exploded luggage, like, into a locker, like, shoving it into the locker, to the point where a lady from the train station came over, and she's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I'm like, yep, just shoving knickers into this locker. And I went around the corner and bought a bag, and, like, the people were so helpful, like, at the store, and I'm like, yeah, my bag just totally exploded. They're like, it's okay, girl, we got you, like, so, anyway, weird, funny anecdote.
So while she met up with the person we were meeting, I drove the car to the airport and got stuck in traffic, and then...
You had a funny time getting back, though.
Yeah, I couldn't find the word to return the car, and I finally did return the car. And it was funny is they were all excited that they had a Land Rover Discovery. He's like, we don't get many of those up here. Okay, we'll enjoy looking at the rental car. I mean, it's a nice car.
Well,
I'm sorry. So I returned the car, and I had to wait for the bus to take me to the airport terminal so I could get a taxi back to Inverness. And when I returned it, a group of Scandinavians also returned their rental car. So then I got stuck on the bus with them, and then I had to go wait at the area where you wait for a taxi, where there were no taxis, and then I had to call a number to find a taxi, to have a taxi come, and then the Scandinavians walked up and they're like, we're going to Central Inverness, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the train station. And they're like, we're going to the train station too, why don't we share? And I'm like,
this is how the movie Taken starts.
Let's just be clear, I have social anxiety, and I don't like to be around people, and I work from home, and I almost never leave it, so, like, this was an adventure beyond what I was expecting. So here I am in a taxi on the way back into Inverness with a group of Scandinavians who I didn't know.
Who were lovely, though.
Who were very friendly, and they were very nice, and so the taxi driver was just like, whatever. And but we split the journey 4 ways, so it was only like 5 pounds. So I was like, all right, bonus. So went back to the train station. Jackie had already met the gentleman we were meeting, and I should probably plug him. His name's Humphrey, and he's the owner / creator of the company that makes the Great British Adventure Map, which you may remember we talked about in the first episode was kind of the inspiration for the trip. And he also happened to be in Scotland at the same time, and so he wanted to meet up with us.
It's weird that we because he's not from there either.
No, but he spent like a week in the wilderness,
and like we all obviously we're not from there either, but we all seem to meet up in Inverness. Like, of all the places in England to meet up, because Inverness is way north. It's definitely not on the beaten path. Yeah,
and so we met him for dinner, and we had a lovely dinner.
/meeting.
Humphrey's a lovely chap.
Yes.
I love their maps. We sell them in our online store, so I'll put links to the store. But
I like the music map the best.
Yeah, the music map is great. The adventure map is probably my favorite map, and then they just released a new fold-out map of all the funniest place names in Britain. So we're gonna have that soon, I promise. They're awesome. If you're a map nerd, you'll love their maps. So I'll be sure to link in the show notes so you can check them out. And so after that, time to go to the train station
for the Caledonian.
Caledonian sleeper, we were the first to arrive, and
it feels like you're getting on the train to Hogwarts a little bit. I won't lie.
Yeah, it's like you check in, and then we would
like they wheel out a podium, and they're like, "Are you on the list?" And we're like, yes, we are.
Yeah, we booked the tickets like a year in advance. So we had a sleeping cabin, a double berth with. You took the top bunk. I was in the bottom bunk, and I've actually written about this on the website where I'll link to. I don't really like the Caledonian sleeper, mostly because I have IBS, and I was having a flare up, and the swaying of the train and the constant motion. Like I had a miserable night. You slept fine, didn't you?
Well, yes and no, because like you have to get used to moving, so it's a lot like sleeping on a sailboat. It's actually like as I said it like just clicked. It's a lot like sleeping on a sailboat. You got that rocking back and forth, but what was really kind of jarring is like we would stop and then we'd get going and like I would like roll backwards and be like, what's going on? And then, and not at a fault of your own, you were up a lot in the night, and then yeah, because you were up, our door was unlocked, and at one point somebody walked in the room, like it was another woman, just mistook our cabin for hers and was very, polite and super embarrassed about it, as I would have been as well. But I was just like, okay, like that did not just happen.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cramped. It's
functional. Let's be honest, it's functional.
And I found out afterwards that all the cars are being refurbished in the next year.
It needs it.
Yeah, so we had like the old cars that are going out of service. So I would the one thing I would use to describe it though is that it was magic. We got on the train in Inverness and we woke up in London.
Yes.
Like it was magical. And it goes fast, but it like it goes down the West Coast main line of Britain on the train, so like it's a very long journey, and then you arrive on time in London.
You wake up
station, and like it's magic. Yeah.
The only thing that was a real hiccup for us is there was no reliable internet.
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint besides the physical discomfort is it was a Tuesday and I needed to do the Anglotopia weekly newsletter. I thought, I'll just
sign up if you don't already get it. It's so good.
I'll just do it on the train. And while the train had Wi-Fi, or I don't think it had Wi-Fi.
No, it was like we were trying to grab it from our phones, but we were moving so fast and in remote places, and
it didn't happen, and I was so frustrated because I had to do it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it, and so that's why it came out on Wednesday. So yeah, don't count on being cut off from the world and count on,
which is kind of nice if you know that going in. It's kind of like an airplane.
Yeah.
Or how an airplane used to be. Now that you can.
But if you want to see Edinburgh and don't want to fly, and you want to save a night on a hotel because it's basically your hotel for the night, take the Caledonian sleeper because you can take it from London to Scotland as well. Here's
the thing, though. If you are going to do that, while it is super cool and it is magic, like a magic time saver, keep in mind, like, your room is like maybe, or your cabin is maybe like 2 airplane bathrooms. So whatever luggage you have has to go in your room with you. So,
you have to travel light because there's nowhere to put your luggage.
Well, and we had 2 carry-ons and now a new duffel. A large duffel, but not like insane, not like backpacker style. And I will tell you, it was tight in there. Like, we expected it, but at the same time, like, if you travel heavy, this is not the way to go. Or maybe, like, do a first-class cabin or something. We did a standard cabin. I'd be interested to do a first-class cabin. To see if it's a different traveling experience.
So we woke up in London, and this was our last day of the trip because we had a whole day in London. So
yeah,
we're running out of time on the battery, so we'll just go through this really quickly.
Yep.
We stayed at Hazlitt's, which is our London hotel of choice.
I love Hazlitt's. Hazlitt's, I love you.
But we got into London at 8 a.m. and we couldn't check into the hotel till the afternoon. But they knew that, and so we went to the hotel, and they took our bags for us. And they were very accommodating. They tried to get us into our room as early as possible, but it still was too early. So
it's like coming home every time I walk in the door.
Yeah, we love Hazlitt's, and it's a little bit pricey, but it's a great location, and it's got character. It's this little Georgian building. We've written about it many times. We love it. And
I could take a swim in the bathtub.
Yeah, the bathtubs are huge, which was great after not having a bathtub for like 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah, and you get off the train a little grody. There's nowhere to really freshen up.
But we had plans for the day. We went to breakfast.
Great cafe in Soho.
I remember the name.
We'll find it and put the name in the show notes. Like,
it was a great breakfast place.
Might have been actually my favorite breakfast. I take it back. Wine bar. Sorry.
Yeah. So after that, and then we were like, okay, we have a day in London. What are we gonna do? And we were still exhausted though. So
that is an understatement because we really didn't sleep well the night before.
But we were kind of like, well, I mean,
we're gonna make the most of it.
We're gonna make the most of it. We'd done enough work.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, well, why don't we just enjoy the day as the London Files? Like, if we were in London for one day, what were the things that we would do? So we walked over to the National Gallery in Trafalgar Square, went through the National Gallery, saw the Turners and the Constables.
By far, can I just say that the National Gallery,
I love the National
that
Gallery.
is my happy place.
Yeah, the art there is just, it's amazing. So we went to Trafalgar Square. Where did we walk to after that? We went to Selfridges.
Selfridges was last. You went to a bookstore.
Yeah, we walked over to Hatchard's.
Yeah.
Hatchard's is my favorite bookstore. It's the oldest bookstore in London. It was founded in 1797. So it's a lovely, lovely bookstore, and I can buy books and they'll ship them home. So I wanted to go there. You went to Fortnum & Mason. Love Fortnum & Mason.
Seriously, if you go to London and you do not take the time to go through the Fortnum & Mason in central London, you are missing out. Go. Over the Harrods Food Hall, go.
So we did that. After that, we walked over to Selfridges. It was actually quite a bit of a walk, but it was nice.
It felt good to walk.
It was nice to just walk in London.
Because we'd been in a car and on a train, and so the walk felt nice.
We walked around Selfridges. I bought a few things at Muji, which is my favorite store.
They have a Muji store downstairs.
It's my favorite Japanese store in London. It's kind of a weird thing, but they have the best pens.
We go to Selfridges really just to kind of browse, not so much to shop.
Buyers. There's just cool stuff there. It's like what going to Marshall Fields used to be like.
It's more like an emporium.
Yeah.
You can legitimately buy things there, but it's definitely a high-end department store. So it's for us. It's it's fun to go look at the fashion and that kind of stuff.
It's kind of like what Harrods used to be like before they got bought out by the Qataris. Where it's realistic high end.
Yes.
Whereas Harrods now is unrealistic high end.
Well, a couple of years ago, I bought some shoes from L.K. Bennett there. Yeah. Excellent shoe department.
So we did Selfridges, and then we were I wanted lunch. You wanted.
I was exhausted. So, I needed a bath and a bed.
So we went back to the hotel. Our room was ready.
Yes.
I went to lunch. You took a bath.
Took a nap. Glorious bath in a Hazlitt's tub, and then that big old-fashioned bed. Oh.
I did the newsletter and did some work.
I'll be right back, folks. I'm going to Hazlitt's.
She took a nap. But the reason she went to nap is the evening we had planned. We had a play booked, and we kind of planned the trip around this. Ian McKellen did King Lear at the Duke of York's Theater, and it's it's pretty much the last time he's going to do Shakespeare because he's 80 years old now. And the stamina needed for stage work is just, he's old.
I couldn't have done.
Yeah. So, and his Lear was very well reviewed. So we're we've got to do that. We can see him, to see him on a play on London stage. That's a treat. So we had booked that. So we went to dinner at Burger and Lobster, which is our favorite London chain.
Love Burger and Lobster. It's so,
it's the weirdest place. All they serve is hamburgers or lobster.
And champagne. So, you could literally sit there and, I'll have a lobster, please, and a glass of champagne. It's so funny, but it's it sounds outrageously expensive, but it's not.
That's the thing, is it's not expensive.
And the lobster is really good.
For London, at least.
As landlocked Chicago people, it's a good lobster, I'm telling you. Go to Burger and Lobster. Although not every Burger and Lobster is the same. It's a chain. We have one in Soho that we really like. The food's always really good. It's super busy, but Burger and Lobster.
So we went to the play.
Yep.
Ian McKellen was fantastic. But let me say, I'm not the biggest fan of Shakespeare's plays. I'm not a bad Anglophile.
Again, you can send your emails to info@anglotopia.net.
I'll be sending the forwarding up to her email address. I'm not a huge Shakespeare fan, and I've talked about this before, why I'm not. But I wanted to see Ian McKellen, and we made it to the interval. But we were just exhausted, and Shakespeare takes all your intellectual.
You do have to pay attention.
You really have to pay attention, and we were just kind of done at the interval.
Yeah.
And
we did that. We were those people.
And it's a long play.
It's a very long play.
And so...
But very well done, and it's not to insult Mr. McKellen or any of the cast.
McKellen was fantastic. He was amazing. He was transcendent on stage.
Yes.
But we went back to the hotel at the interval.
Did we do Shake Shack?
I don't think we did.
Oh,
that was another time.
Secret confession.
If you're hungry after a play, there's a Shake Shack.
There's a Shake Shack.
In the West End now.
What's really funny is, although Shake Shack's an American thing, we've never had Shake Shack here in the States. But it makes the best after theater, like a cheese fry and a beer. Yeah. Do it.
So we went to bed. That was it. And we woke up the next day at like 6 because our flight was at like 10.
Very early flight.
We had to get to Heathrow. We got to Heathrow and we came home.
Yeah. So that was our big grand adventure.
Was our Anglotopia's grand adventure. That was... I'm going to write more about it in the coming weeks.
We're going to do it again. Like, let's do it like John and Groats down the west side and like...
It was great.
It was.
It was fantastic. And it was a great adventure. It was great to... I think Hemingway quoted that life is too short to go on adventures. Or how does it go? You should travel with somebody you love.
Aww.
And that makes the adventure worth it or something. I'll find the quote and put it. But it's a fun thing to do with the love of your life.
Thanks, babe.
And there's plenty to see and do if you're not much of an Anglophile like you.
I call myself a reluctant Anglophile.
But there's plenty to see if you are an Anglophile. I mean, it's an adventure with lots of elements that for both.
It's definitely an adventure in all the best ways, and I feel so lucky and fortunate to have experienced Scotland for the first time. I've loved Britain kind of at first by proxy and then just through experience. But Scotland, oh my gosh, like... Yeah. Scotland's like nowhere else I've ever been.
We really want to go back to Scotland and spend some time there. So I don't know when we're going to do that.
We're going to do the islands.
We want to do the islands. We're not traveling in 2019 to Britain for lots of reasons, except on the guided tours that we're trying to fill.
Yeah.
Because the tours will pay for our presence. But other than
we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus. We did a lot of travel last year.
The tours aren't locked unless there's enough people that go.
We'll put the links to the tours in the show notes.
We should put the links to the tours in the tour notes.
So you can experience a little bit of Great Britain yourself.
So, yeah, we're doing 2 tours. The first one is the Mayflower 400 tour, which is a tour geared around seeing all the sites and places important to the pilgrims before they left Britain. It's really cool.
A lot of thought has been put into this.
A lot of planning has been put into this by Reformation Tours, our tour partner, who's put it all together. And there's been a couple bookings, so if there's enough bookings, we'll be going.
Yeah, so book.
And
come hang out with us.
It's $3,000, $500 deposit, and
we'll show you England.
And we'll show you. We're hosting, so like
you get us.
You get us in the package, which is why the tour is paying us to be there. So, and then this is not public information yet, but we can give you a sneak because there's not a lot of people that listen to this yet.
Don't tell anybody.
But Reformation Tours is also putting together a Downton Abbey themed tour.
What? No.
And for August.
Shh! Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. But we'll have details of that in the coming weeks. But those are not, like I said, we're taking the year off of travel other than those because those are being...
Well, we had pre-committed to those.
We have already committed to those, and the tours are paying for our presence. So even though Anglotopia has kind of had a rough couple of months, we don't have to worry about that as paying for that as the year goes on because it's paid for. But yeah, so maybe in 2020 we'd like to maybe do a couple weeks in Scotland.
Yes, like hold up in a cottage somewhere where I can see the sea.
Yeah, maybe I can finish my book there. So
me too.
So that was Anglotopia's Grand Adventure. The next podcast will be not about that.
No, I think
we're gonna do British TV,
or I'll have to look what's next on the schedule. It might be money, might be Brexit. I don't know.
We'll see.
Stay tuned. You'll have to tune in to find out.
There's lots to see.
Dun, dun, dun.
Lots to talk about. So thank you for listening to the first 4 podcasts about our trip, and we hope you come back for the cool stuff we have coming up. So thank you.
Bye-bye.